Hello, and welcome back to the Harmony Inspired Health podcast. Today, I am joined by the beautiful Tyneal Alexander, a marketing strategist and founder of Ritual Consulting. After nearly a decade of chronic health challenges and the pressures of a demanding corporate job, Tyneal found her way to Ayurveda and everything changed. Her story is one of true transformation, not just in her physical health, but how she now lives, works, and serves others. In this conversation, we're going to explore how Ayurveda helped her uncover the root of her health issues, led her into entrepreneurship, and helped her build a business that reflects her deepest values. So, this episode is really going to be for any woman who has ever felt out of alignment, stuck in the hustle, or in search of deeper meaning in her healing journey. And another reason why I'm so stoked to have Tanil on is we actually went to school together all those many, many years ago. So it's so nice to reconnect with you, beautiful Tanil. Thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you for having me.
So welcome. So I would love to dive straight into your personal journey because you've spoken openly about struggling with chronic stomach issues for almost a decade or probably maybe even more. Can you take us back to that time and what life looked like for you?
Yes, I was in my 20s working in advertising, a very fast paced, stressful, competitive environment. And it was very deadline driven and yeah, it was very good at it, to be honest. And I just really lent in. And I was also just living a quite a busy life on the weekends as well. And as I just kept going. And, over the years, I started to notice I was getting stomach issues and I didn't really understand why or what they were caused by. And I saw various doctors, specialists, naturopaths, healers, and nothing really seemed to bring lasting relief. It was very much giving me like physical pain and then just also the mental and emotional challenges that come with any sort of physical health issue. I did a lot of restrictive dieting, took out gluten, did all those sorts of things, but I didn't really look at my health holistically at the time. And it wasn't until I moved to Melbourne, I was kind of at a peak point in my career. And it was, very fast paced, very stressful. And I just suffered real burnout. So I kind of hit a wall with my health. And it was probably in that moment I was a bit of a wake up call, to be honest, and just in terms of how I was living my life, and that I needed to just take a step back and value my health and realize that it's actually the most important thing. It's not about money. It's not about climbing the corporate ladder and achieving a particular status or title. Actually, your health is everything. And if you don't have that, you don't have anything. That burnout moment for me, yeah, really forced me to look at how I was living my life, the choices I was making. And it led me to, I guess, go down a path of yoga teacher training. I was very passionate and loved yoga, and it was kind of the only thing I could do from an exercise standpoint. So I started my training with yoga, and that's what introduced me to Ayurveda. And I learned all about my dosha type, what worked for me, what symptoms I was probably going to be experiencing when I was imbalanced. And there was just a lot of moments of light bulbs going off, and I really learnt about myself, and I learnt about how the decisions I was making and how I was living and living this overstimulated, fast-paced lifestyle was actually contributing to my health issues. And it really wasn't just about the food I was eating. So
Yeah.
it really changed the way I looked at what I was doing, and yeah, it broadened my perspective, and I started to look at my health from a more holistic point of view.
And so, what were some of the symptoms like with your digestive issues, if you wouldn't mind just going over those?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a lot of stomach issues. I was formally diagnosed with IBS, which I feel like is the label they give you when they can't work out what is wrong with you.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of bloating, stomach pain, yeah, fog, brain fog. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just very, very uncomfortable, yeah, through all of my 20s. And it just also caused, I think, like a bit of depression because, mind and body, everything's connected. And I certainly noticed on the days that my stomach was really bad that, yeah, my head would be really bad as well.
Absolutely. And it's kind of like that little wake up call where your body is sort of telling you to pay attention. and what are you digesting, either not digesting or digesting too fast, not just like you said in the nutrition and the food, but also in your mental capacity. Like, were you taking on too much at work? Were you taking on too much at life? Like, it really gets us to reflect on our whole digestion of thoughts, emotions, food, the whole thing. And when we look at it from like that Ayurvedic perspective, as we talk about the digestive system being, the Agni, the digestive fire, but Agni is so much more than that. It's like our cellular intuition and intelligence and the processing of our mind as well. So yeah.
Absolutely.
And so you said you went and studied yoga. So you become a yoga teacher training and yoga teacher trainer.
Yes.
You went and did that training. And then in that training, that's where you first heard about Ayurveda.
Yes, yes. That was one of the modules or a couple of the modules in the training. It went for a year long. So it was kind of like this year long self
Mhm.
reflective period. And yeah, I learnt about Vata, which was my dosha type at the time. So, very fast paced, minded, a thinker, air, but also probably had a dosha that, was a bit more prone to digestive issues as well. So my lifestyle combined with my dosha type just was a bit of just aggravated the situation basically.
Definitely. And what were the biggest shifts or aha moments that helped you understand the root cause of your condition? Was there anything you specifically implemented that you remember thinking, yeah, this has made a difference?
Yeah, there were probably a number of small things, and it really, Ayurveda played a big part of that, just in terms of instead of focusing on not what to eat, it was more of a focus on what to eat to actually nourish my body. And that was going to work for me and help bring me out of that state of imbalance. So warming foods, grounding, like those grounding warm foods, root vegetables, those sorts of things were actually really good for me from the inside and just helped balance everything out. I was really, loved smoothies and crackers and like just light things that actually weren't really serving me. I also started doing more yoga, meditation, breath work. I stopped running. I stopped doing spin classes and things like that. But then probably the biggest realization that was the most confrontational was actually looking at what I was doing for work and realized that maybe my body, even though my head wanted to do it and I was good at it, that maybe my body wasn't actually suited for the corporate world, sitting, in a chair for 10 to 12 hours a day in a really high pressured environment. With the way I was working, I'm kind of go all in. I don't have many modes when I work. I'm kind of like pretty go gun ho. And that doesn't always work. I think for me, it kind of just leads to burnout. So I really had to look at how I was working and what I was doing for work and think about whether I was in the right field
Mhm.
and whether there was some shifts and changes that I needed to make that were actually going to be better for my body and better for me as a whole.
Yeah, so it's such a common thing, isn't it, that we, career-driven women and work really, really hard, and then it comes to this point that our body's like saying something's got to give here. And so you were definitely managing a high-pressure career during this time where all of these challenges were coming up. So what were the specific challenges that came with trying to balance healing with work? Because the whole I guess work situation that helped put you into this imbalanced state, this vata vikriti, you're still in it. So what did you do to be able to manage that?
Yeah, I actually felt like I was living in two worlds because I was also doing my yoga teacher training while still working, and I'd taken a demotion from my previous role just to have less stress, less pressure. However, I felt like I was living two different lives, and I had a lot of internal conflict as a result of that, and I felt very out of alignment as well. So I often would just feel like I was in this state of inner conflict with my body. It was like my head versus my stomach, I was like, we're in battle together. Who's going to win
Yeah.
today, And my stomach would always win.
Yeah.
I just needed to really start to listen to my body.
Mm.
So the physical part of it was definitely a challenge, and then just the mental and the emotional challenges that came with it and came with realizing and just surrendering to the fact that I can't keep pushing. It's not working for me as much as I maybe want to. It's actually just not working for me. So it was really hard to kind of let go of that, particularly, done my degree in marketing. I'd spent, by that point, 10 years working really hard, making sacrifices, moving to different cities to pursue bigger opportunities and all things like that. But in actual fact, it just wasn't serving me. So I think that was a really hard kind of concept to digest and
Absolutely.
accept and to make other decisions that were just really different to what I was used to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think also like you graduate school, you go to uni, and then you go into the career. And it's kind of like our whole identity. As an adult, it's all we know. Like I went into uni when I was 17. And so did you. Yeah.
Yes,
We
yeah.
were young for our
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
So from your sort of you entering that adulthood, and it's like all you've ever known of the world, and you get attached to that identity. It's really hard to shift because who are you without it? And this is why I love like Ayurvedic psychology so much because it really gets into all of those aspects of self. But I had the same sort of realization when I was nursing an emergency department, and I just realized like it's not for me. This isn't sort of the pathway that I really wanted to choose. I mean, we grew up in a small country town, and I think I was a year ahead of you maybe at school.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
think so, yes.
And so I felt that there wasn't a lot of known options either. All I knew was nursing, which my mum said, you'd be a great nurse because you bandage up all your animals type thing. Or there was to become a teacher. But business, what made you go into business? Because I guess I didn't even really think of it.
No, I can really understand what you're saying, like, coming from a small town, you only know the jobs that you see in front of you, right? And advertising, I mean, yes, we see TV ads, but I didn't even know the term existed and
No,
things like
because the
that.
businesses around us were selling hay and
Correct, yes. Ice
food.
creams or, hats or something, like very, yeah, very
Yeah,
retail focused and not the
horse
e-com
food.
retail that you see today that, has
Yeah.
swept through Byron. No, I actually wanted to do acting. So I auditioned and, was really committed to going down an acting path, but I didn't get into the course. It was very competitive. They only took 9 women, 9 men in each year, so only 18 people, and they had, I think, over 9,000 applicants. So I didn't make it. So I actually started with a dual degree of business and media communications. And I remember sitting with my mum reading the description of the course and her going, oh, this kind of sounds okay. And I was like, okay, yeah, I like the sound of this. So, yeah, that kind of led me down the path and I just stayed with it. And I really did enjoy marketing. I really loved the consumer behavior and the psychology, the buying, learning about, what makes people tick and buying behavior. And then being in a city, and I did some work experience in an advertising agency. And I think back then as well, just, the bright lights of advertising just kind of drew me in. And, I wanted to be a part of that world. And it was fun. It was kind of, you got to kind of dress up, go to work, put on a role, and kind of act, really. But I think also that just feeds into this feeling of being disconnected and you're not just one person. You're 2 people, right? You're your role when you're at work and then you're you when you're outside of work. And that just didn't really feel right to me ever. I felt like there was always something missing or just something that just didn't feel right. And I knew I wasn't in the right place, even though there were parts of I really enjoyed what I was doing.
Yeah, and I can so see that with you because you're such a beautiful, grounded soul and, from that sort of small town energy. So I can definitely see that part, which, corporate really doesn't lend itself to. But also, I get the excitement. I get also having these two parts of us, and neither one is fraudulent. Like they're both our higher selves, depending on what sort of role we're stepping into that day. But it can be like, how do I bring them together? And so, how did your personal healing journey lead to the creation of ritual consulting? Because you end up moving out of the corporate world. So, can you just share that journey, how your healing journey helped you move out of corporate and into what you now have as ritual consulting?
Yes, absolutely. And it was a journey. There was a few different paths. So I stepped away from the corporate world and moved into yoga teaching. I completed my course. I ended up managing a couple of high-end yoga studios in Melbourne, which I really loved. And then I moved back to the Gold Coast from Melbourne. And I, yeah, had a side business at the time. So I was doing markets and surrounded by the small business community, which I really loved. And over the years, I always had people telling me, oh, you should do marketing, or you should do your own thing, or you should be a consultant. And I always kind of thought, oh, no, I've been doing marketing for so long. I don't want to do it anymore. I want to do something different. But it wasn't until actually like separated with my partner at the time and the business that I'd started with him. And I was living on the coast, and I just gave myself 3 months to just not plan or do anything and not think about the next move, because I'm such a natural planner and I'm always moving and, looking for the next thing. I was like, no, Tanil, this is a big change in your life. You're just not going to do anything for 3 months, and you're just going to be. And I did a lot of yoga during this time, a lot of beach walks. I listened to a lot of spiritual podcasts and everything like that. And it was probably the most grounded period of my life. And it was in that time that I guess, rediscovered my values. I developed my own vision statement and mission statement for me personally. And what came to me is that I wanted to serve, I wanted to give back. I loved working with people that were lit up, that were living their passion and their purpose, and I wanted to help people to be able to do that. And looking at what my experience was, I was like, well, my experience is marketing. It is everything that I've done. So that's what I have to give. So for me, ritual consulting was kind of born from that place of an acts of service. And I wanted to package up my skills and everything I'd learnt in the corporate world and deliver them to the small business community in a way that was going to be meaningful and helpful and supportive towards them. And it all just kind of fell into place. And I probably just never felt more in alignment. And I'm so living in purpose. And even though I've still got things on my plan that I want to achieve, and it's going slower than what I would hope, I don't have any doubt that I'm on the right path.
Yeah, beautiful. On that dharmic path, we like to say you really get called to that. And I love how you recognize that you wanted to be of service and all of these beautiful things that you wanted to do with your gift of marketing, and still having it's almost like you have all that beautiful yoga knowledge behind you now, and the marketing to really make it such a like service-centered, purposeful marketing agent, well, not agency, because it's, what do you call someone that just does
Consultancy. Yes,
consultancy?
yes. Yeah. Very similar, arguably the
Uh,
same.
that is where, is that when we reconnected? Because at that time, I also had an activewear business, and you came
Yes.
on and helped us get the activewear business sort of name out there as well.
Yes, that was very early on. I'd started taking on some clients, and I love, I guess, yeah, being a yogi, or, and I love the activewear. I think I was very interested in, yeah, just seeing how I could help you just navigate that period of your business.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's
that was
so
great.
funny how there's these people that kind of just always float in and out of your life. It's like there's some sort of connection that's always meant to happen. And then some people, like, they live in the same town as you and you just never see. You know they're there, you never ever see, you never cross paths again. It's always interested by that. But I feel like we've always sort of like crossed over, reconnected, all
I
that.
know, and there's certain things that you've shared with me over the years that have really stuck with me too, especially like, in my journey to becoming a mother. I remember one conversation we had prior, and you saying to me, get as much done as you can before, like just really lean into the now. And I
Yeah.
always thought, oh wow, no one really tells you that. And I have never forgot that conversation. I've never forgot that piece of advice. It was so true.
That's probably my pizza vata coming out. So, what advice would you give to women who feel called to shift out of their burnout and create a more purposeful life, whether that be in their business or not?
I think I would say to just really try and tune into what works for you in the particular moment that you're in your life as well, because what works for you now and what is going to serve you now might be different in 5 years' time, might be different in 10 years' time. So, really just taking a moment to sit down with yourself and to work out what works for you and your nature, what works for you, maybe your family and your priorities, what your values are, and to try and make decisions and move from that place. So if you have a business, working out, I guess, what lights you up, what you can actually also make a sustainable business
Mm.
from as well, and then looking at, how you're sharing your gifts with the world. And that's like from that more marketing perspective as well, and looking at things holistically, I feel like is going to allow you to live in more alignment and to feel more purposeful with what you're doing and more meaning in what you're doing. And you'll feel more grounded, you feel more centered, and you'll find the flow. I think when things are in balance, or when you're not in alignment, you're not in that flow state. But when you can start to align everything and live your life from a place that's more value driven, that you will find the flow and everything will just start working for you.
And since you created Ritual Consulting, you've had two little kitties as well. So you're also a mama of two young
Yes.
ones. So how is your business a reflection of your values moving through that transition again? Like, I love what you said about, reflecting on where you're at the moment, because
Mm.
we evolve, we change. That's human nature. So how have you kept your business in alignment with your values?
Yes. I only work part-time, and that's an intentional decision that I'm able to make, which I'm very grateful for. But that was really important to me so that I can spend quality time with my children at this early age. They're both under 4. So being able to work part-time and to be flexible with my hours as well, and have clients that are also understanding, of that flexibility that sometimes needs to be there. So that's definitely very important to me. Also, just working with people and working with businesses that are doing good in the world, that are actually on their own path, and I want to serve them. I've got really limited time,
Yeah.
and I want to make sure that I'm putting my expertise and my resources to help those people that are doing good as well. So that's really important to me, so that I can feel good about what I'm doing and I can show up in the best way for my clients.
And so, if there are, because I know a lot of women in the health and wellness industry, businesses listen to this podcast. So, if they're listening and saying, well, how can she help me specifically with marketing? Like, what is it that you do in your job, and who is it that you work with? Because you do like to work with, people who are in alignment with their dharma, so to speak. And a lot of those women are probably listening.
Yeah, wonderful. I think I'm naturally drawn to like wellness industries and personal brands and practitioners. That's kind of been my world and my experience just with my health journey and being in the yoga space. So I definitely find I often resonate a lot with women in that space. I have a marketing mentor program, which is probably my most, I guess, popular kind of program and offering with people. And I sit down one on one with people, and I do a marketing strategy and plan. Essentially, we workshop that together, and I do a bit of a deep dive into your business and understand personally where you're at, what your vision is, and what's important to you. And then I look at the business, and I have a system that I use that covers off 4 key pillars of your business, and we work through that together over the period of 3 months. So I make sure you've got all your foundations right, that are going to set you up from a good place before you really start to switch on all the various parts of marketing. But I have a holistic approach to marketing, and it's very much grounded in, making sure your foundations are right, making sure you really understand your target audience, you're really connected to your brand, and you understand your brand values, your vision, and things like that. Because that really helps. And I think you can just kind of start and get a bit lost. And, if you just focus on social media or you just focus on one particular area, but if you haven't done that groundwork, you can end up spending more time and you can kind of get led astray. So I think it's really important to kind of have someone to guide you along your journey. Yeah, and the marketing mentor program is really the best way I do that with clients.
For sure. And your consultancy is called Ritual, which I love.
Yeah.
First, I want two parts to this question. How did you come up with the name Ritual? And then also, do you have an Ayurvedic ritual or some yogic ritual that you actually do at home in your day-to-day life to keep you within alignment with your integrity and your values?
Yes. Yes. So ritual came about with the time when I was on the Gold Coast and I was living just a very grounded, connected to nature. And I really believe that marketing, there's a lot of, I guess, stigma around marketing, or a lot of people feel really uncomfortable when it comes to marketing. But I really believe, if, I guess, just a different way of looking at it and a different way of framing what you're doing. And really, if you are on that dharmic path and you are sharing your gifts, that really all you're doing is you're sharing your gifts and you're trying to help people. At the end of the day, that's why you exist as a business, is that you're trying to help someone on their journey. So from a marketing perspective, I want you to get really clear and really good at being able to do that. And I've got a number of ways to be able to help you to do that. So I want people to think about marketing their business as almost a daily ritual. And it's not something that you just do or you have to do. Sharing your gifts and connecting and finding your people is what's in you. And that's the ritualistic part of running your business, is that you're yeah, it's just something that has meaning and there's intention behind it. and yeah, you're sharing your gifts essentially. So that's kind of where ritual came about, is that I wanted people to approach and look at marketing as more of a ritual and as an expression and extension of their business and offering, as opposed to anything, tacky and salesy, and that just doesn't feel good. And what I do on a daily basis to help, I guess, bring me into alignment or to help me find balance, I do a couple of different things. The first and most simple exercise is I just connect to my breath. So I will sometimes close my eyes or I'll do box breathing, but I will literally just find my breath. And it might just be for 30 seconds of the day, but it helps bring me out of my mind. It helps bring me back into my body. It helps slow everything down. So that's something I do periodically throughout the day. When I'm in nature as well, particularly at home, I'm surrounded by trees. I live on a rural property. I will look up at the trees and I will just listen to the sound of the wind through the leaves. And again, that kind of sensory experience gets me out of my head, gets me out of the stress state that I might have been in, or just the monkey mind of constantly thinking about all the things I need to do. And it brings me to the present moment. And I think it just helps bring harmony inside my body. And yeah, just very little things. It doesn't have to be big things, but I just find those two simple exercises I can do at home, I can do anywhere. Yeah, the most valuable.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. It only takes little things to come back into your body to realign your center, especially for people who are of a higher vata constitution. Vata dysregulates the central nervous system a lot of the time. So important for little tiny moments throughout the day to re-regulate yourself, come back into yourself and your body. And I mean, even I'm very vata pitta. So even this morning myself, I was on another podcast, and it was an early podcast because it was in the States, in America. And so I didn't have, a lot of time to do my full ritual, but I had enough time to go and, light my incense, choose an
Mm,
oil that, represents my dosha, like whether I needed some pacifying or whether I needed some motivation, and literally just take 3 deep breaths, inhaling the scent of that oil. And it just really brings me back, into my body and how I want to feel for the day, because I resonate that essential oil with that dosha. So
yes,
yeah, it only took me all of a couple of minutes, but it just made such a huge difference. And I must say, I showed up to that podcast and I reckon I slayed.
amazing,
I was really happy with that little mini ritual that got me in my mojo going.
amazing. I love that.
So where can our listeners find you?
I hang out mostly on Instagram, so I'm at Ritual Consulting on Instagram, and I dabble in LinkedIn.
Oh yeah, yeah. I wouldn't even say I dabble there, but
Yes,
so they can reach out to Tyneal on Instagram and yeah, give
yeah,
her
an email, Tennille at ritualconsulting.com.au.
there you go.
Yeah,
Giving out
wonderful.
your email address. How nice. Thank you so much for everyone listening as well. And if Tennille's story resonated with you and you'd like to explore Ayurveda for your own healing or evolution, I invite you to check out the Ayurveda Alchemist Academy. We are now offering both a certification and an embodiment pathway so that you can learn this sacred science in a way that fits your path. Links will be in the show notes as well as Tennille's links. So until next time, keep rising into your higher self.